heard it both ways. Welcome back to Pilot Pass, your new favorite podcast. I am your co-host, Gertrude Von Steinbergen. And joining me today is none other than...
Del Pullen. And come on, that's not your real name, Matt. Don't be exactly half an 11-pound Black Forest ham.
Let's grab some pineapples and talk about a little show on the USA Network called Psych.
Yes.
James Roday and Dulé Hill. Del, let me ask you a question. Are you Shawn or are you Gus?
I think, does everyone want to be Shawn? I think I'm Shawn only because I guess if we're Shawn and Gus, which we've known each other a long, long time.
Yes.
And we tend to have this banter back and forth. I tend to be the more obnoxious, foolish one that tends to get into trouble more often. While you tend to be the more level-headed black person. So
excellent. What's my name for today?
Who worked on West End? Who worked on West Wing?
Yeah. I know, right? Do I have a special name then? I mean, if you're going to be Shawn, you got to call me something.
Well, you know what? We're going to go with Lively Pinkston.
Accepted. I will accept that.
Perfect.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Like I said, today on Pilot Pass, we're talking about the TV show Psych. It originally aired in July of 2006 on the USA Network and called, ironically, Pilot. Though, is there some debate on that?
Yes, because Amazon has the pilot listed as Psych as the first episode name, which is fine. It's an hour-and-a-half long TV show that could basically work as a TV movie. But my DVD show it as being listed as Pilot. So there you go. Fight it out, world.
Controversy already. I can't believe it. Here on the Psych episode, I thought we were just going to be all happiness
buddy.
And frilly frills, but I guess not. Let's tell everybody a little bit about what Psych is. So what we're talking about is the police department in Santa Barbara, California, in case you're wondering. Hire someone they think is a psychic detective to assist on a case, and then another case, and then it just keeps going. Del, could you be a psychic any better than Shawn is a psychic?
I think I could. I have great skills. For instance, I could tell just over this podcast that I can hear you're wearing a red shirt with some sort of monochromatic picture on it. I'm seeing multiple pictured frames behind you and a single door the same color as the wall.
All right, I did it.
In a blue chair.
I did it. You've got me. I admit it. It was me that did it all along. See?
Nice.
You nailed it. That's what the show's all about. You know, I think that the most important thing about this show is enjoying it with friends, because every time you find somebody new that knows Psych or that likes Psych, all you got to do is quote one thing, and then you're just in. You're buddies forever.
Yeah.
I have a Psych book on my coffee table, the Everything You Need to Know About Psych, written by the characters from the show. And there's been more dialogue and conversation at my house brought up from that than anything else, I think.
And you got to admit, I mean, I've watched tons of mystery stories, and there's some there's some lighthearted ones, something like Monk and stuff like that. But I've never really seen one where it really is, because it is a Holmes and Watson type. I mean, Shawn is the very knowledgeable. He's never held a job for more than 6 months. He's well experienced in multiple different fields. He's educated, but he's not very accessible to people. And then his friend is instead of doctor, a pharmacist representative. So he knows a lot about drugs and medicine. So there's that very clear analogy. But from there, you get the fun of pop culture references, these two people that have known each other since childhood. And, you know, I love Sherlock Holmes. I read all the stories when I was younger, but they never kind of talked about, you know, what was happening with music in the films at the time, you know, or the radios, you know, or the newspaper short stories in the same way that Psych does. And I think that's what makes this show different, is the relationship between these two buddies. I would watch do anything, whether they were firemen or private detectives, you know, or homeless guys living under a bridge. I want to watch James Roday and Dulé Hill hang out as these characters.
I would absolutely watch all of those shows. Now, before we get too far, I want to make sure the kids understand. When Del says Watson and Holmes, he doesn't mean the terrible, terrible, terrible movie with Will Ferrell. He means the original. So just want to clarify.
I mean the original movie Without a Clue, starring Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley, where Ben Kingsley is actually the smart one and Michael Caine is a hired drunk pretending to be Sherlock Holmes. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch it, folks. It's amazing.
That is an excellent recommendation. USA was in the business of recommendations at this time, I think. They had a lot of detective shows, whether it was, like you said, Monk.
Monk paired very well with it. An OCD detective paired very well with this pop culture show as well.
Yeah, and the only sad part about this second movie, or even the first movie that they've recently done, no spoiler words, but I can say that I always hoped that eventually they'd work with Monk, and sadly that never happened.
Yeah, it is implied, because we can jump to the finale, people. It is implied, I'm not going to tell you how it happens, but that there is another detective in a new city they go to work a case that is in the other room organizing cereal boxes alphabetically. So it is implied that this all takes place in the same universe, though they never work a case with them, which is a missed opportunity. That's like the Hardy Boys and Tom Swift never working together, or the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew not working together.
Or Scooby-Doo and Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, who wants to live in that world?
Nobody does. Nobody
it's like
does.
Mr. Peanut Butter and Bojack Horseman not doing a crossover episode.
Let's come back to the beginning, though, all the way back to the first episode, the pilot episode, as it were. So it starts out, Shawn solves a case by the TV, which is always great to be able to start a character like that, kind of how he can do things without even being there, just by noticing things. So they already start out
Well, let's start with the preamble almost, because there is the opening scene. Shawn is,
yes, please.
a 8, 9, 10-year-old child who wants a pastry at a local diner. And his father, Corbin Burnson, one of the best casting jobs of all time, is putting him in this, makes him close his eyes. He's a detective, and he is training Shawn to be a detective from a young age. So he's making Shawn work on his visual memorization skills. And he does tests like how many people are wearing hats. What's the name of the lady that that was working the counter? And Shawn nails it all, so he gets his cake. And I think the waitress says, "Well, that was impressive." And Corbin goes, "Well, that was adequate."
Right,
so it sets up the tone between he and his father right off the bat, that his father, is training him to become good in the observational arts, but he'll never be good enough in his eyes. Then we jump to the scene that you're about to say here, 20 years later, roughly.
There you go. His dad was a cop. That's kind of where this idea comes from, and that's his obsession with that kind of comes from. So yeah, so then the police department realizes, hey, we've got this case we can't solve, so let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So Shawn becomes involved, which means that Gus becomes involved, and then mayhem and insanity ensue, just like always.
Well, let's also say that the way Shawn becomes involved is they call him in, because he gives his name when he calls in, and figures out the case over watching the television news, and they call him in. He thinks he's there to get a reward or something, and instead they call him in as a suspect who clearly has way too much information on the case. And the only way he can kind of get out of that is he just claims, because there's a lady that believes in mystics, one of the police officers does, that he's a psychic. That's something they obviously can't disprove right then, so they kind of have to just let it slide. And that's where he gets stuck. That's where the entire concept comes from, is to get out of being, to get out of looking like he was a suspect. He claims that he has visions, and those visions get him out of it. Of course, then the police chief says, "We'd like some help on another case." Of course, if I find out that you're bullshitting me and lying to me, that would be obstructing justice. So you better not be lying about being a psychic. And there sets up the premise of why for the rest of the show, he can never just come out and say, "I'm just a really good detective." So, and they seal that in 10 minutes into the show. Here's why for the next 7 seasons, he's locked into that lie.
Also because of the name of the company, too. It'd be really weird if he wasn't a psychic and then he was named Psych.
Right. Or they named the show that and then had a script written for him. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm also just not going to play a character."
Yes. And I love that observation of things. USA did a good job of that. And they always set up something within the show that keeps it going for all the seasons. So there's always a motivation for the character, even if it's flimsy sometimes. There's always something there for them to work towards and to go towards.
Well, we talk about some shows that establish themselves in the first episode knowing what they are, even if they make changes later to kind of, augment the show a little bit. And Psych is definitely, they knew what it was going to be right off the bat. All the rules of Psych are there, the parameters of what's acceptable ethically and morally and when he can lie, and who his friends are, what they're willing to do for him, who the cops are in their relation, like everything right off the bat, with the exception of the replacement of the female detective who didn't test well when they got Maggie in. everything was locked in. I mean, it was clearly a fully fleshed out, almost, I would say, a TV show, a TV movie that went on, of course, roll and roll and roll. The one thing they clearly didn't get right, the color scheme, which was blue in the pilot.
Right.
And to me, just upsets me at a gut level so bad, knowing that the green they switched to later is so iconic. Even the window at the very end of the pilot where it says Psych, but the next episode is green, and it upsets me so much to see it in blue. Why? I don't know. But it's just like when I watch 30 Rock and the theme songs, the one wrong theme song before episode 2, it upsets me in a way that I can't explain. It was like the one thing they didn't get right. They had to test a color,
Yeah, sometimes just it's that little thing. And, at first, as I'm watching the episode, I'm beginning to realize, oh, well, I didn't hear the song before the show started.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. But it was perfect because of what the song is. It has to wait to the end of the episode for you to be able to go, oh, now I understand. It doesn't work.
Because it's locked in.
Yep.
Yeah, well, if you notice, they did play it at the beginning, but they played the instrumental version. When he pulls up on his motorcycle to walk into the police station, it's playing the instrumental version of that I Know You Know, which it is, and I guess people should know. Stephen Frank's the guy that created the show. Also has a band called the Friendly Indians, and he wrote the theme song and they perform it for the show. So what a great idea to have a show, be able to write it, hang out with your friends, and also have your band perform and get paid royalties on the theme song. Wouldn't mind
the theme song. The theme song is on the Mount Rushmore, right? Like, I mean, it encompasses everything that you need from a. It tells you everything about the show. It's catchy. I'll always remember it, but it's just so playful and everything else. I can't think of a better.
When it comes on, I sing along every single time, every single episode. Dun, 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 dun,
Watch out, copyright.
It tells you it's going to be a show about a psychic, but it also tells you that the psychic's lying, and it's implying that everybody kind of knows it but doesn't, and it's very tongue-in-cheek and playful, and it's a great theme song as far as theme songs go. Is it DuckTales? No, but what is?
What is indeed, sir? Do you remember? I'm just curious where you first saw or heard about Psych from.
We were watching Monk. I was with a girlfriend at the time. Like I said, I just moved back from Oklahoma, and she had already kind of caught a couple of episodes of Monk because she was a lawyer who hated lawyer shows because they infuriated her, but she liked detective shows because, she didn't know the rules of the game in detective movies where she knows law. So she was enjoying Monk, and of course, who doesn't? You're watching Freddie Regenschneider do his best as another character. But Tony Shalhoub, of course.
Yes.
But then this was paired with it, and we caught we watched it rolled into an episode, and we were like, whoa, what is this? This is a really funny, silly show. So that night we jumped back and watched the pilot, before going to bed. And between those two episodes, we were like, well, we're in. So over the next week, we watched the entire season. Timothy Oliphant, I'm sorry, and I always say that name.
Name drop in here.
Yeah, the guy that plays Lassie, whose name sounds the same, but he's fantastic.
Timothy Ombudsman, isn't it?
Is that Timothy Ombudsman? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Okay. He's fantastic. He's absolutely one of my favorite parts of the show, too, as a foil to Shawn. He's the lead detective that does not believe that Shawn is a psychic, and he's at every moment trying to disprove him, yet he still respects Shawn for solving cases. And I believe it's in the first season, episode 3 or 4, he gets drunk and even tells Shawn, you're a really great detective. I don't know how you're doing it. And it just, everything about it, by the end of the first season, I was just already stoked to jump into season 2, and we had to wait for season 2 to start.
Oh, I did. I came in.
That was hard.
I came in late. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think you were really probably the one that pushed it over the top for me. I was watching Monk. I adored Monk at the time, but USA was also putting out a lot of the shows that were kind of on the cheesier side. There was there was definitely some hit or miss things on there. So I was apprehensive about it. It felt too kitschy to me. But once you turn me on to it, watch a few episodes, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I can be part of the cool kids. And
because it does, if you explain the plot, it sounds like, oh, what a terrible idea. A guy pretends to be a psychic to solve cases. And then it's a great premise to launch a comedic show from. One of the other things I'd like is other shows took that premise and ran with it in a dramatic fashion. And Psych calls them out as real shows in their show all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they call them like not mine hunters, but there's like mind readers is listed in the pilot. And then they have the Mentalist. And when people shit on the Mentalist in the show, they're like, come on, that's one of our favorite shows.
Mm-hmm.
Or who would believe such a dumb premise when,
Right.
so I love that they're always ripping on any other show that took that and tried to do it in a different way. They're like, no, we were first. We got there. We did it right. And they either love or hate the other shows. And I think I love that they can play with that because, they can be tongue in cheek about this idea can be done in a ton of different ways.
Agreed.
They just did it the right way, the correct way.
They nailed it. Yep. Nail on the head. So there's a lot of great moments to choose from in the pilot episode of Psych. I'd like you to tell the people one of your favorites, if you would, please.
This is a small one that I did not notice until I rewatched this recently. There is a cartoon sound effect they add when he is giving the sketch. I know it caught me totally by surprise because it's nowhere else in the rest of the show. And they never do this again. But there's a part where he's giving a sketch artist, he's telling the sketch artist what to draw. And he's just describing a picture he's seeing behind the sketch artist to give the sketch artist something to do.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
yeah, and so the sketch artist draws this picture exactly like the photograph behind him. Everybody comes in the room like, oh my God, that's so-and-so. He's the guy. And so everybody makes a big deal. Of course, they realize if anybody looks, they're going to see it's the exact photograph behind him. So Gus grabs the picture and puts it in his jacket, and you actually hear it go, yoink, when he does it. I actually rewound that when they did not add a cartoon sound effect, and you hear it like Bugs Bunny goes, yoink, when it goes into his pocket. So go back and listen for that for any trivia. That may be my most obscure Psych thing I've ever noticed. But the other one is, do they do the fake names in this? That doesn't start until episode 2, right? Where they give Gus the fake names or the insults.
I think you're correct. I think you're correct. I watched the movie like right after or right before, so I'm trying to parse those two things together. But I think you're correct. No funny names for Dulé Hill.
Okay. Gosh, in this one, I don't know. It may just be where he's figuring out the hand thing that he's so he always puts his hands and fingers up by his head and wiggles them, and he starts kicking his feet around when he first kind of figures out, this is what I'm going to be psychic. But then when he goes to Gus, he's like, look, no, I can do it like this too, and he's showing off how he's going to act surprised later. I think I really like that because at one point they figure out the crime and they're like, well, we should call the police. And he's like, no, don't you understand? We can't. We have to go back and I have to pretend to have a vision in the police station. And then we'll bring everybody out here and they'll see all the little clues I drop along the way lead them to demonstrating I'm a psychic. If we just call everybody, they come out here and it just looks like we solved a crime. But he's in the back of the police car practicing his surprised face in the police car. And Dulé Hill's like, stop it. That was one of my favorite moments of just James Roday being James, something I could just see him doing to irritate Dulé Hill.
I love that. For me, it's actually something that they had to subtract after this first episode, and it was the character Lucinda. I like that the most about this episode because you see that there's a hole in their game, and they couldn't have fixed it any better with Maggie Lawson. Like you see how much Maggie brings to the character because you see what the other lady did. And unfortunately, I'm sure she's a fine actress, but it did not work for this role and it did not work for Juliet. I can't imagine her and Shawn having the same kind of relationship over all the seasons as he and Maggie Lawson did. So that's my favorite because you see what the one thing that was missing that they're able to add from the second episode on.
One of the nice things about how they work that in is I guess the character they drop out is the partner of Carlton Lassiter, the head police detective that doesn't believe he's a psychic. Turns out they're sleeping together. So, of course, one of the things they can't do is have Shawn pair up with the girl without extremely pissing off this detective. But what they were able to do is by replacing her with Maggie Lawless, they make her in story transfer to a different department. That gives Lassiter more reason to hate Shawn without having Shawn steal, a relationship away. So it keeps Shawn likable and has it be replaceable with a new character that fits better, that is a lot more of a love interest for Shawn. So I think they actually fixed two really good problems with that. They got somebody that fit the show better, overall comedic. And I think they fixed Carlton's rivalry with Shawn a little better and gave Shawn a love interest at the same time. So I think that was one move that cleared up a bunch of issues right off the bat. Very, very, very smart move.
You know what else is smart? Investing in Netflix. Since we've already missed the boat on that, let's at least pretend to be Netflix, shall we? we like to do a little thing on the show where we compare shows to other shows. Now, this is not a straight one-to-one comparison or anything like that, but it's something that you can enjoy. It's like a double feature that we like to do. So talk to me, Del, about what you think would be a good show that Netflix would say pair with Psych.
Okay, we're going to get the obvious out of the way, Monk. That's just, they were paired together. USA did it. They were always kind of be meant to watch together. I mean, so that's right out of the bat. I would say any comedic version of a Sherlock Holmes story, barring Holmes and Watson, like something like Without a Clue, really pairs well because it is fun to have banter between two people trying to work to solve a problem together. Man, another good show with just witty banter between two characters like that would be something like, I hate to go to this all the time, but like Bojack Horseman, you know, where they're talking about serious issues and they'll have to stop and the whole plot stops while they have a conversation about some, you know, inane subject matter to get them through to the next storyline. You know what? I'm looking through up at my DVDs right now to see what I see. Another good one would be Home Movies. If you ever saw that cartoon show, it's I don't know why it's not about a detective, but it's about kids who like making their own home movies. But they also get into these the same type of their best friends bickering all the time, but you can tell they're also getting along as they attempt to like craft something together. And I don't know why, but that does seem like, and the humor is kind of the same as well. I could see those pairing very well together.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back just a few years on the Fox network and throw out a little show that got canceled way too early. It was called
Greg and the Bunny.
Houdini and Doyle.
Yes. Okay. Actually, that. Oh, we talked about this.
Yeah,
that
Harry
would be a good
Houdini,
one too.
Arthur Doyle. I think that that comic team was just perfect. So go back and watch the 10 episodes or whatever that they actually.
Why did that not get more seasons? So upset about that. You know what? I'll tell you another show right now that I would put with this: The Detroiters.
Oh, okay.
It's Tim Kremlin, the guy that did I Think You Should Leave, and the larger black man that played in Veep. Who played the very sweet black gentleman who becomes the president at the end of the series. They're two ad salesmen from Detroit who are trying to sell ads, you know, like Chrysler and stuff like that. But they just can't stop bickering or fighting, even though they've been best friends. One's married to the other one's sister. They live next door to each other. They obviously get along really well. They have lots of in-jokes, but they can't keep ruining things for each other as they try to sell to clients. Now, think about it. That would be a really great pair to watch with Psych. It's more ridiculous, it's more absurdist, but the type of humor is definitely still there of two buddies that you just want to watch. Because you know what, in the Detroiters, I don't care if they're admin, living under a bridge, firemen, or if they were private detectives. I would watch those two characters hang out all day. And I think that's, like I said, what I enjoy about Psych so much.
Is Psych anyone's best? We're going to the mountaintop right now, and we're talking about the people, the places, and events that are involved in Psych. Normally, we start off with the actors, but forget that. Put that to the side for a moment. We know they're gods. We know that they are our heroes, right? So let's talk first. Is this the mountaintop for Santa Barbara?
Well, as it was shot in Vancouver, I believe, Canada, this may not be...
that is
which
a
made
good
me
call.
so sad because I kept going, wow, that looks beautiful. I can't wait to move out to Santa Barbara when I retire, only to be like, well, I guess I'm moving to Vancouver now. Apparently they got so many tax breaks that made it worthwhile to send the crew and everybody up there a couple of times a year.
That is the correct answer. How about James?
But it does
look
look beautiful.
Is this their apex? Dulé, like you said, has been on.
I think
several
it's
TV
James
shows.
Roday's. I think it's Roday's because he also wrote and directed a few of the episodes. Most famously, Tuesday the 17th, which was a parody, obviously, of the great horror film Dracula. No, of course not. But Dulé, he was in The West Wing, and he was amazing in that as even a dramatic character. I got to say, I enjoy him more as Gus, but 10 seasons of The West Wing or 7 seasons of The West Wing he was amazing in that. Corbin Burnson has done so many amazing things throughout his life. He's just a treat to have in the show.
Let's hang out with him for a minute. What is his mountaintop?
You know what? You're going to have to look this up and then edit out the time it takes us to Wikipedia.
We are behind on this. I mean, LA Law, Major League, The Dentist.
That's the thing is,
great.
I can think of him in everything. Yeah.
Have you seen The Dentist, by the way?
The Dentist?
Yes.
No.
Oh,
wait, is that
for that.
Wait, is that the gore film? The horror gore film?
I mean, it's not a gore film per se, but it's a horror film. And I believe he murders his patients as the dentist.
Okay, yeah, I've probably seen part of that thing because it does bring to mind something like an Eli Roth type movie, and I think I have seen part of that.
I guess probably L.A. Law is going to be either L.A. Law or
Yeah.
Major League will be his mountaintop. How about Juliette
for me?
Lewis?
It's Major League.
Juliette Lewis. Juliette that plays Juliette. Maggie Lawson. What about her?
I can't think of anything else I've seen her in though, so I guess this would have to be. I can't think of anything else I've seen her in. Does it list anything for
her? She's been in a bunch of bad stuff, and yes, this is by far. Oh, other than, didn't she marry Matt LeBlanc? Was she married to Matt LeBlanc?
Yes, because that counts in your career.
Hey man,
into people.
That's pretty big. I would marry Matt LeBlanc.
Actually, I guess that does in Hollywood. Yeah, that does count.
Yeah, you get extra points for that.
No, this would definitely be her mountaintop right here.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, let's see some of the other. I mean, there's so many. Once the show got going, too, they were able to get guest stars. Something like when Jameel White was on the show, or you find out Gus is in a barbershop quartet. I mean, that was also nice. But again, those are cameos. But Jameel White, it was pretty enjoyable to watch him show up on the show a couple of times. But no, I think it's got to be for me. James Roday he stole the show. He's, as much as I love Dulé, and the Blueberry, because let's come back to the Blueberry in just a second. James Roday just steals every scene he's in. Maybe him and Lasseter can go toe to toe. Because he's just so enjoyable, even from the pilot all the way. And, of course, his hair goes more and more Conan as the seasons go on. But he's really the winner. And I haven't really seen him do anything else since. But again, take your money and sit down and shut up if you've played Sean Spencer.
This is definitely the high water mark for that blue car, right?
Oh, yeah, the Blueberry. Okay, let's up the Blueberry. The creator of the show specifically said, because every show always has some badass car, the good guys, Miami Vice, everything. And he was like, I want the least sexy, least cool car ever. So is it, what is it? It's like a Ford Prius, or I don't even know what cars go together, but it's basically like a Volkswagen Golf, except it's blue. It's very much like a car I had. You could not outrun anybody in this car. You could not trail anybody in this car.
But it's the perfect car for a pharmaceutical rep.
Right, exactly. It's such a practical car. But yeah, and then Shawn has a motorcycle, so you're like, cool, badass. He'd ride the motorcycle everywhere. He's the main guy. He rides the motorcycle in the pilot. He rides the motorcycle in one episode where he breaks his leg. And then Dulé Hill mentions, yeah, why don't you take your motorcycle? You ride that so much in like season 5 or 6. So there's the whole motorcycle. It gets impounded in one episode and they get it out. But he's never shown riding the motorcycle except the scene where he breaks his leg and when he first pulls up in the pilot. That's it. So they always have to use Gus's car, which is this little tiny
Toyota Echo is what it is.
Is it a Toyota? Okay, yeah. And it's a great comedic choice because whenever they're whipping around or tailing people or trying, it's just cool guys, I guess, cool.
I feel like this is a silly question, but I'll ask it anyhow because it's on my list of questions to ask. Psych, the TV show. Would you recommend? The pilot, yes, by the way.
Yes, I would even say the pilot was still good enough that it solidified everything good enough. It was 90 to 95% of what the show will be. The only things added are the repetition of the pineapples, the fake names for Gus, which turns out is his last name, Gusterson. His first name is Burton. So that guy has names upon names upon names. I love that. And then, of course, when they insult each other, I used it at the beginning, but my favorite insult that makes no sense to me whatsoever, and I still love it, is, Gus, don't be exactly half an 11-pound Black Forest ham. What that means, I don't know, but it's a great insult. But they'll use it all the time, like, Gus, don't be the back half of a pig at market. Gus, don't be the last 3 wheels on a semi. It's always something that makes no sense that I just love that they throw in there. And that to me is almost the heart of the show, is those little insults back and forth.
The inside jokes, yes. I mean that's what really kind of crowns this as an all-time classic as far as I'm concerned, and I definitely would recommend it based off the pilot or any other.
Yeah, I recommend the show to I recommend this show to everybody of every age group. I mean, what's cool is this is a show that I want my daughter to watch. This is a show I want my father to watch. This is a show I want, people, friends. And you know what? Even if you're my enemy, I think Joseph Stalin would really care for the show.
But the problem is that's not your enemy, and you know it. Come on now. I'm kidding. Del is not.
He edited me out of everything. It was, yeah.
Yeah, you were
there's no pictures of us. Yeah.
You were the sixth member of Death of Stalin. You were supposed to be there, but it didn't work out for you.
Just totally separate note. Go watch that. Same guy that created Veep, so we got to get on Veep and The Thick of It too, which are great shows. We need to get on this series sometimes.
That is true. But for this episode, Psych was our topic. Is there any final words that you'd like to leave the people with for Psych?
I've heard it both ways.
I've heard it both ways indeed. This is Pilot Pass. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts from. That would be the iTunes or the Spotify or even that weird one that Dell keeps using.
Player FM. I love it. You can sign up and it syncs between online and your phone. And I can't say enough good stuff about it. Hey, send us money, guys. We could use you as a sponsor.
We do have a Patreon that's going out next week. If you are interested in giving us some money for listening to our highly entertaining and very interesting and knowledgeable podcast that we put together for the people.
And I want to put out a special thank you, just because maybe she will promote us even more. Just my good friend Inka, who was very nice to stop me today for 30 whole minutes and tell me how much she loved the show. And so if she's nice enough to stop me for 30 minutes, tell me how much she likes the show, I can drop her name one time as a thank you in the hopes that she will continue to promote us.
Please do. And yes, we very much thank you for that. Thank you for everybody that's listening. We will be back next time with a new episode. Del, joke? Yes?
No.